So a couple items that caught my eye while I was reading through my backlog of email. This first one about application load balancing not resilient to network disconnects on replicas. We were pinged, but I'm not sure this is something that we need to own, but I need someone else to take a look at it. Is there anybody that wants to take a quick look and see if this is something we should own or hand off to SRE?
Yeah, I took a quick look in the afternoon, and I think it has a quite straightforward fix, so it might just be a configuration issue.
Okay.
Yorick found that and pointed it out. I reproduced it, and it does fix the problem.
Okay.
So that is something that SRE can do on their own if they wanted to, but maybe we should also make that a default setting. But I think both issues are not a problem to do, and we can totally take it if that works. We can take it on the next milestone or.
Let's do that. All right, and then I was looking through the audit events epic, and the UX changes are not scheduled yet. They put a priority 1 label on it, so they're going to go through and break it down to see what further information they need before they implement it. But I didn't see any issues in there for follow-up items for us if we need to switch anything over to start using that once that UX ticket is gone. Because I was going to mark the UX ticket as a blocker before we can do what we need to do to actually start using the audit event tables. Did I just miss it, or do we need to create an issue for any kind of switch over to start using those tables, or am I way off base here?
So the next thing we have to do is the cleaning up the migration. And Pat, you're already working on that, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, we probably have to do some index creation or so, but maybe that's also part of it. And then we can actually swap those tables if we wanted to. The question is, do we want to do that before the UX changes go in, or do we want to wait for that?
I thought the plan was wait for the UX changes because those are going to optimize based on the partitions we created. I don't think performance will be terrible based on the usage patterns that we've seen of audit events, but my understanding was the plan was we were always going to wait on those UX changes.
So basically we're cleaning up the migration, preparing the table so it's ready to be switched, and then we wait for the UX changes. Once they're in, we can do some testing, or we can have an extra issue that is actually about swapping the tables. And before we do that, we test if the partitioning gets picked up right. And then we're done.
Okay. So it sounds like we need to create an issue for that swap and test.
Yeah, I think the swapping might be a little bit more complicated than we originally had talked about. Mostly because in the new table, the primary key is multi-column, which we know Rails doesn't support out of the box. And I think if you swap the tables while the application is running, that could have potential. I think initially we had said, that if we swap the tables, the definitions are the same, everything should just work. But I don't know that will necessarily be the case due to the primary key changing. So it works in the sense that as long as everything is fine, it works. But then if for some reason like a server were to restart and it would start running that same code but reload the schema, then suddenly everything is broken because now it's seeing the primary key, which it doesn't recognize. And like some, simple things like saving records won't work anymore because it can't auto-generate the value, and lookups on the ID fail because it doesn't know how to handle that. So you probably need to talk about that a little bit more. I did some testing yesterday, and I think it might be a little more tricky than we thought.
Would it make sense to, after finishing up the migration cleanup, that we look into how to swap would work like, so that we have a plan and we know how much work that is, or have an idea? even before
Yeah, I
the
think
UX changes are in. All right.
So, Pat, since you did such a good job of describing the work, I assigned you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. All right. See, who was here last week? It was just Pat and Andreas, right?
Yeah.
All right. I didn't see anything written down for goals from last week, which is fine. Did you have any goals that you all set and wanted to review, or should we just jump into what we're going to do this week?
I think we kind of went over the milestone priorities last week. And on top of that, we had the container registry. So part of last week was getting up to speed with that. And then Joao, the backend engineer, he's on vacation for 2 weeks. So that we had a couple of, or I had a couple of like questions catching up with him last week. That was one part.
I can't remember how to pronounce how to even spell his name. Is it? No. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some extra missing on the.
Yes,
Yep.
I need to figure that out. All right, I'll come back to it. All right, let's just jump into this week then.
Yeah,
what do we have?
Sorry, one thing I think that we sort of neglected to do last week too was go through the milestone and say which issues would be deliverable. We never really.
We can do that. Get rid of that.
And priority-wise, we're talking about the container registries, like the top priority, and then I think the events, looking at the events partitioning and getting an idea out there second. And do we have something else? Oh, audit events. That would sure, finishing that up, at least partly as discussed.
Yep. And then I threw the data dictionary epic into our backlog. It's Kat would like to has asked for that, and it actually came up in the development channel too. Someone asking about columns, and data dictionary might help there. That's more of a long-term goal. It's not something we need to start this milestone, but something we can talk about if time allows. All right, so issues for this milestone we can mark as deliverable here. So just going top down. This one looks like a bug.
Is this the one with the race condition, Pat, where you?
Yeah.
Right.
This one, I'll just go straight down. Is this deliverable?
Probably some, I mean, this is sort of a one-off thing for that user, right? But if the pattern there, if the race, or I think there is a race condition in there, like Pat described. So there is some room that this pops up more regularly, actually, if that's right. I think we should fix that, or is that pattern correct that we see?
Yeah, I think your suggestion of if we don't see the kind of minimum partition there, that we should just skip it. I think that makes sense, because that should always be there if the partition ran. Even if there would be no data, there would still be at least that one.
Yeah, then let's fix it, because might be more people running into that.
This one assumes that we have, oh, okay, more of a question. Does this one assume that we've rolled it out in production? The second one.
Kind of does. I think that came up from last week's conversation. Josh created it as a placeholder to sort of, for us, sort of making sure that, well, we have the desired benefits from partitioning.
Okay,
but now that we're waiting on the UX changes, that goes after, basically.
Yeah, so I wouldn't mark that as deliverable then if we have a blocker and dependency on another team.
Yep.
This one I created, it's along the lines of data dictionary, so I wouldn't consider that deliverable either. That's nice to have. Same with that one. Identify access patterns for container registry.
Yeah, that's kind of the one we're working on right now.
Right.
And it's maybe not only about identifying the access patterns, sort of went into, like, we're currently working on an alternative proposal for the database. And then we make sure we want to discuss what the benefits are or make sure we understand the trade-offs, and then finalize a database model in this milestone.
Oh, alternative proposal for the database model itself.
Yeah, it might just be that we end up doing what is sort of currently out there. But there is an alternative that we can explore. And I think we should spend some time on that and then discuss what the trade-offs are.
Okay.
Because the model that is proposed is not bad, but it's very flexible, and it might have some problems.
Right, like actual access patterns that work with partitioning easily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Giannis, remove the get ignored schema migration files.
Yeah, I'm working on that one actually. It's deliverable.
Okay.
The next one is, I think the title is a bit strangely phrased, but it's about like highlighting in the documentation that certain Postgres requirements have changed. I think it's just a documents edition. I can do that. So.
What do you think? Are we going to get to the events partitioning proposal?
I think that we will know next week. So
okay.
Maybe we, yeah.
Leave it off for now. Yeah, this was one of the things I was going to follow up on. We're still discussing with Alberto and SRE on how to best do the re-indexing, right? Yeah, right.
But so I think it's at a point where we can also make a call and go with something, because we're kind of not getting a lot of feedback, and I think they're also quite thin at the moment. And I have asked about, like, do we have plans to do the repacking like with a higher frequency, like not only once a year, but more than that, and even automated. And there's no work schedule for that on their side. So maybe that would help get that going, or maybe help fix that problem if we were making that call.
Oh, if we just did the rake task.
Yeah, or it's not done with the rake task, but if we went in that direction and offered them something to use.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be a deliverable in this milestone, but just in general.
All right. We'll leave that alone. Then this one's being worked on right now. Index helpers.
Yeah, that one is deliverable.
Okay.
Oh, it already is.
Oh, you're right. Look at that. This one, structure assumes schema name public.
There was only one occasion where that was a problem for a customer, where they didn't have the public schema as a default. Hasn't popped up since then.
Okay. Leave it. This one's being worked on right now, right?
Yeah.
Already deliverable. It will be delivered.
Workload analysis. Is that going to happen this milestone?
It should finally.
Okay. This one's unlikely to happen this milestone, right?
The issue is not it's a tracking issue, basically tracking the problem. But
yeah,
when we talk about events partitioning, then we should also have a solution for that.
Yep. Okay. Developer documentation for migration helpers.
Yeah, I think that should be deliverable.
Right. Document design decisions. It's not critical for this milestone. Sidekick always using primary.
What's the state of the issue? Has something,
Oh, been
is
marked
that
as
sort of,
deliverable.
is there an action, a clearly defined solution for it, or is that still exploratory?
No, looks like it's still being explored, so I'll leave that one alone. And namespaces already marked as deliverable.
Though that was a stretch goal, I think.
Yeah, it is a stretch goal, and it will depend on whether we will decide on working on events partitioning or not. If we want to work on events partitioning, most probably I will work on it, and it will be done.
Okay. So this is what we have for 13.4. So do we have any specific goals for the week that we want to discuss?
So Yanis and I, we discussed sketching the container registry database alternative, let's say, and then getting together end of the week and discuss that. And then sort of see what Haley thinks of that when we're done.
Did I spell Haley's name?
Mm-hmm, that's correct.
Okay. And then for audit events, it's just finish up cleaning up the migration.
Yeah, finish that up, and I guess you know, investigate and see if we can formulate a plan to swap the tables.
Anything else for the week? I mean, it's only 2 lines, but there's a lot of work there. For this milestone, we still have 10 unassigned as well. No, it's not showing anymore. That's weird. All right. These are the ones that are unassigned. Is there anything in, we don't need to assign them right now, but is there anything in here that people are already working on? Nope, doesn't look like it. Okay. All right, anything else for this meeting? I'm gonna stop sharing then. So Thursday, we'll do the team retro then. I'll make sure that that's on the agenda. How was your time off, Giannis?